Before I start mixing, I need to ensure that there is a clean start to each instrument section, and that I have positioned a small, short, quick fade in, just so that I do not start from an area where there is sound. Otherwise I may end up with a digital click. So for each instrument part, we need to ensure that there is a quick fade in. Nothing should start from zero in terms of audio level. And similarly with the end of an instrument part. So we have nice clean beginning and nice clean end. The next task is to section up each instrument part, if required. Here is the saxophone part. Now, if you listen carefully, there's a slight noise here, so you may want to zoom right in and eliminate that slight unwanted noise. Now, it's important not to make it too clinical, meaning it may be worthwhile leaving in the human breath. Now, it's your task to ensure that all the different sections have fades in and out like that. And you decide where you are going to position these fade in and out points and the shape of each one. After each part has been split into sections, if required, and you have positioned your fade in and out points at appropriate places. Remember, listen carefully. This is the vocal track. Always listen and determine your positions in terms of edit and fade in and fade out. You may want to retain the breath, as I had mentioned with the saxophone part. If it's too clinical, it's just not going to seem a natural performance. So the next step after editing is to balance your instrument. In this case, the vocal track.
When you're in my arms.
Don't just judge the level by what you see. You need to always listen carefully.
All my while.
So you notice here I've adjusted the segment's level. You can just click and readjust. Undo that. And it looks a lot louder than this segment if we were just to look at the visual waveform.
All my wildest dreams come true.
But of course it would make no sense to make this to be perceived as being as loud as this part, because it's part of the vocal phrase where the singer, the performer, is reducing the level. But I've made little adjustments here because this was a little bit too loud compared to the previous section. And given the words and the style that the vocalist was performing, I made a decision to reduce slightly this area and this area. And in this area, I've increased the level a little.
If you'll only grant me the right.
Okay, so that's in isolation. So we should also listen to this within the context of the overall ensemble.
I need no soft light to reach.
So I'm hearing a little reverberation, which I was intending to add later. But my point here is the intention is to smooth as best we can in terms of level for the vocal before engaging audio compression. So we try and achieve the smoothest overall performance by adjusting these different sections. After that, we'll apply automation. For this vocal track, the next step will be to use automation to achieve a smooth perceived level across the track. So if I play back from here,
the right to hold you ever so tight.
if this area was too loud, I potentially could place an edit there and reduce the level.
To hold you ever so tight.
But there is a slight click here. And if we were to zoom in and fade in, fade out, this will end up sounding unnatural.
And to
Potentially. There's a slight noise there. So rather than editing that section and adjusting the level, I wish to use automation and keep the breath of the performer so that it sounds more natural and a part of her performance. So to do that, I use automation. If I look at the volume, I've placed this automation here. And if I turn that automation on to read, you will now hear the change in perceived level at this section.
to hold you ever so tight.
Once more.
To hold you ever so tight.
And without the automation.
To hold you ever so tight.
Once more.
Ever so tight.
Once more with the automation.
So tight.
So that's a much more natural way of controlling the perceived level of the vocal track rather than using audio compression. To demonstrate using automation, I will first check this track. Okay, I have automation data here. Now I could redraw that if I wanted to, but what I'm going to do is, well, I can leave the volume window open. So I'll go to the mixer. I have the vocal tracks soloed.
To hold you ever so.
And what I will do is put this into touch mode. As soon as I touch the fader, when I play back, I will write information and you will see it change in this area here.
To hold you ever so tight.
So that's the new automation that I just performed. So I can go Command Z and undo that. When I put the automation into latch mode, watch what happens. Play.
To hold you ever so tight.
Pull it down. Release the fader. When I release the fader in latch mode, it stays at the last position that the fader was at. When I released it, it keeps recording data at that last position of the fader. Undo that. When I put it into touch mode, play back, I'm in touch mode.
Ever so tight.
Release the fader and it pops back up. So in touch mode, when I touch the fader and and change the fader position, when I release the fader, it will pop back up to the last position at that moment in time.